Well, thank you, B, for that introduction. Thank you guys for being here. I have sat in these same seats, not these are new, but I've sat in the proverbial seats where you are. So I know, I can identify, and so I appreciate you coming. I think that the gratitude of being able to serve will only come as you have the opportunity to serve. I'm hoping that one day some of you will be standing up here at this point, because that's how it works. Welcome to the folks on Zoom. But yeah, Zoom is brand new. Back when, let's see here, let me recount. So I was here initially October 2014 through January 2015. I successfully evaded the compliance officers of PHP for almost a good 5 years. And no, I'm sorry, I came back in June of 2015 to August of 2015. Then I did a 5-year stint, and then for about, I don't know, 6 weeks, 6 months. Anyway, back in 2020, and that's my most recent, and hopefully my last Friday. But hey, I keep it open and continue to serve, make sure I fulfill that again. So I am a physician. I'm from Goldsboro, and have a house here in Lenore. Joyce took away my keys and my phone several times, whatever, trying to get new stuff there. But I have a home group, it's Green Acres. I have a sponsor. I have Orphan Steps, and so tonight, what I'd like to talk about, I know the model is usually, what it was like, what I did, what we did, and what it's like now. I get that, and I'll try to stick with that. But I also want to understand, when I sat there, what I really wanted to know is, I had specific questions. I had practical questions like, when do I get to finish there? When do I get to go out and do what I want to do? Okay. Sounded crazy at the time, but those are, so as you're thinking about those questions, you don't have to wait till the end. I don't, it's not one of these formal talks, etc. I used to come back when they still had on-campus visitations and sat almost. I came back because they had salmon on Thursdays. So
Still there.
Still do, right?
Yeah.
Salmon there. Yeah, Brian makes good salmon. And so I came out, and Dr. Smith was still here. I think he moved on a little bit ago. Ran the professionals program. Be able to come back, and I remember, I came back frequently, and making that drive, I'd still get a little butterflies and stomach coming down those winding roads, and just check to see if my keys were still in my pocket. But that sense of trepidation and mixed with a little bit of anxiety, that's one of those things where, it's a reminder. I never wanted that discomfort or pain. I didn't want to put that in a box and kind of put it aside, and I'm not going to worry about that. That's not something I have to deal with, because I want to be reminded on a daily basis. And there are a ton of these signs that you'll see, like meeting makers make it, thinking, oh, Jesus Christ. They're true, and it just takes a little bit of time. I remember my very first time here. After about a week or so, I was like, this is very much difficult. And I remember saying that. This is very much like a cult. I know, because my people invented cult. And I remember getting taken up to the office. Whole team, I'm not kidding, the executive team. That's Tom Northern, I think, was here at the time. Dr. Kagan was still here, I believe. But everybody, Ramesh, actually, how can you open here? Because it doesn't seem that you're frankly, you're scaring the other patients. But for that kind of, that kind of justification, I think for that self-centeredness, the ego, I'll talk about that. I'll talk about how I look at the steps. I can't Kathy was there. I know people like Kathy, and that's great. I can't remember that stuff. I can't remember all the names. I try to keep it simple. I don't want to be the person running around the room saying, "What's number 911? What's the number 911?" Right? I mean, it's 911. But I try to keep, and I look at the steps, and I'll talk about as I go through here how I was able to finally, look at the steps as a set of principles and try to lead a principled way. But I can also answer specific questions. Those of you out there are professionals, or those of you out there are repeat offenders, because at the end of the day, you're like, what did you do? I don't want to trade war stories. I don't want to hear how good your damn life is. Okay, that's what I'm sitting here playing. I don't want to hear that shit. What did you do? Right? That's really what practical things. And I'll answer those. I'll share with you. I will share with you. It's in my name, RAMESH. Really angry man. This talent shares his experience, strength, and hope. But I look at the prince. There should be a sign here. The 12. Do not keep them here. The steps.
They repainted all of this.
Gotcha. So honesty, hope, faith, courage, integrity, willingness, humility, love, discipline, perseverance, awareness, and service. Those are the 12 principles that are most commonly associated with the steps. And if you look at the steps and how they're laid out, there's a story in there that sort of synopsizes, trust God, clean house, help others well. I modified that a little bit to, trust something other than myself, keep my own house clean, and serve with that expectation. But that encompasses, in a nutshell, the big book and those principles. The first 3 steps, principles are me getting right with my higher power, with trusting something other than myself. The next 4 steps is getting right with me. And the last 5 steps is getting right with others. If you look at the steps, it's exactly how they are. The reason they are that way is why can't I do step 7? Why can't I, be remove, get things in order? Because if you're not honest, you're not there. You can't get right with myself, I'm right with my higher power. And I can't be of service to anything until I reconcile and forgive myself. Words are important. So, I can have guilt. Dr. Kagan talks about this. I can have guilt about things I've done, and I can make amends. But when I have shame about being an alcoholic, that's internal. Right? A lot of things are internal versus external. And so, and there's a difference between humiliated and humility. I don't have to feel humiliated in order to achieve humility. So those are some of those things I'll talk about. But basically, briefly, how I got, it was like I was born in India. I moved here when I was I guess about 5 years old. I was born in a small town, and India is considered small. It's 800,000 people around here. It's a big state like Charlotte. There's a billion of us out there in India, so 800,000 get lost in the crowd. But anyway, it was a French colony, and so I went to a French Catholic school. It was pretty smart. At age 3, I was reading but in French. And so at age 4, my dad's a physician. He came here to further studies practice, and then so when we got to New Jersey, I was a 4-year-old Indian kid in New Jersey speaking French. So did not fit in well. From there, we moved to Philadelphia and spent 4 or 5 years there. And so acclimating and learned to say use guys and playing stickball, right? Those of you can come up there. And at age 10, I moved down to Goldsboro, North Carolina, eastern North Carolina, where they don't have enough school buildings. They just stuck in a trailer, which is still the case someplace. So I had school trailer. So in the fall, that's why I school tornado drills. There's something that we don't have in Philadelphia. Tornado drills. In North Carolina, we have tornado drills. I remember the teacher saying, now if you see a twister come from yonder, you just roll in that there ditch. Put your head between your legs. Are there questions? Yonder, is that a directional sign? North, south, east, west. I'm putting my head between my legs, and that's this one of the talks goodbye. But to say there was a cultural, change, and a lot of the roots of my alcoholism, I can look back, to trying to always be somebody that I wasn't in order to fit in. I don't know how many people have felt that way. I imagine there's a lot of those. But here, and that works for a long time. But here's what I found the problem for me was, if I pretended to be someone I wasn't long enough, I long forgot who I really was. And so I turned around in, my early 20s. And, when I was in high school, I played sports with the jocks. I was academic. So when I got to college, I was on fraternity. But it was always just to try to fit in. And so I was successful. I did well in school. I continued to, outwardly achieve all these honors, but inwardly, I still had those. I was still that little 3-year-old kid that was made fun of, that didn't really fit in, and so those that. But I'm not saying that to say, oh well. I mean, I got stories of people that I've come across that have trouble. My parents were supportive. I did not come from work at home. I had no immediate relatives that were drinking. So, but this sense of something really bad's got to happen. No, it's that the disease of alcoholism is not something that I have to be ashamed of. I can be, like I said, I can feel guilty about things I've done. I don't have to be ashamed about being alcoholic. So the roots of my alcoholism, I know, were rooted in that, sense of not feeling like I belong and always trying to fit in. And alcohol helped to ease that transition, right? It was funny because in high school I tried it. It was a horrible experience. I didn't drink again for several years. I was the president of the Students Against Drug Driving chapter, which really was surprised I didn't. When I got my first DWI, my old DWI, as of now, back in 2000 something, I'm surprised I didn't go back and dig up the past of a former Student Against Drug Driving chapter president, Dr. Krishna, on it. But they do that kind of stuff. That progression came in spurts for me. I was a binge drinker. And I could go long periods of time being abstinent, and so those periods of abstinence are how I convinced myself that I wasn't alcoholic. So I can't say you're an alcoholic in these rooms, but I am a licensed clinical addiction specialist, and I have a practice. So outside these rooms, I can tell you that you meet the criteria for alcoholism. In these rooms, I can't. But this day of life, I days. I've been drinking for 5 years, twice. So, the difference between abstinence, sobriety, and recovery is not something I'm going to be able to do. I can share that, what it means for me, but that has to be fair. So, college, med school, the seeds were there, but no consequences, only rewards, only external validation. But inwardly, I knew, and this whole thing, I don't really know. I've been struggling with that. It's all bullshit. I mean, I always knew the answer. I just didn't like it, and so I would try to figure out where can I turn to, where can I compare myself to in order to make myself feel justified, right? Comparison always leads to bad outcomes. That's why the social media is so bad. It's like, we bring people together. No, you don't. It's to compare. Comparison always takes me away from the solution. But if I can identify how am I like this person, it always brings me closer to the solution. So, I didn't. I was 30 in 2002. Yeah, I got a DWI in 2002. And I justified that way. Well, I wasn't driving at the time. It was a parked car. And I was pulling into the driveway. Whatever. It was in November. I'd just been named the director of the County Health Department. largest health department in North Carolina. I was 32 years old. And, I was supposed to be sworn in that Monday. This was the Sunday of Thanksgiving. And, I'd let some people borrow the car in this really nice gated neighborhood. We had a sheriff's substation out there. So when they were driving around early in the evening, honking the horn of my brand new convertible Mercedes, someone called. And so after they parked it in front, somebody came, the sheriff's deputy had come and sat there and said, somebody's gonna, be out there. It's 2:30 in the morning. My drunk ass went out there. It's not like I spent the car, I'm gonna bring it inside. And turned the key on, lights came on. And for those of you, you don't have to be driving a car in North Carolina for a DWI. If you turn that engine, I would just don't drink, first of all. So I got the idea right. So that date is really, it's easy to remember. It's December 3rd, December 1st. So something else happened that day, nationwide, worldwide, that made the front flap of the News and Record. I was on the bottom flap, health direct truck. Front flap was Saddam Hussein found in his hiding hole. That was there before that. But on that front page of the paper, there's Saddam Hussein, and there's nice. I also made the USA Today in the 50 state roundup. Section. I'm just done that. So it was a slow news cycle. So from December till mid-January, I was in the news every day. And but justifications and I went to AA. I had was evaluated. It was always a one-off. It was, but I knew. And so it wasn't until I got married in 2007, and it was around that time when I started realizing that I was outwardly doing everything that was expected of me, inwardly still not. I didn't feel like I deserved that kind of imposter thing. So, I started, and then when my wife at the time decided that she wanted to go visit and take my kids I want to go stay and visit my parents. First couple times was for a weekend, next time went for a week. The last time she went for 11 months and enrolled my kids in school up there. It's like, my friends were like, dude, she ain't coming back. But she's just going to go visit. So, that's something inspired. That was the time, that my drinking, went from a bottom drinking to, folks at work saying, hey, you're the chief of staff, you're sleeping in the car, something's going to do. I came here over 2015, had a great experience, had to be compliant, went back out here 6 months, ran again. Came back here in June of 2015, had a bit, learned a little bit more how to be better compliant. And that ran for about 5 years. And as soon as I wasn't under monitoring, it only took a few months. So other stuff happened, I won't go into that, but so compliance versus surrender. And I'm going to get to what I did, but those are, what happened. So no real war stories, had multiple, 3 relapsing. The third time I came back here, they were like, we'd love to help you. We're going to send you on. We've taken enough of your money. We bought, we did the garden. We got all this stuff. Good. We're going to spread the wealth and send you down to Bradford down in Alabama. Say it down there, Alabama. And I went down there, and this time though, what was different? And they asked me, it was different. The director there used to be the PhD program in Wilkerson, who was, well, actually, not Wilkerson's here. Yeah, there you have it. You're welcome, Ramesh. He was the one that called me in 2002 when I got my DWI. That's how far back we go. And he said, listen, I know you're a numbers guy, you're smart, I get it. But here's the only number, here's the only statistic you know. If you do this program, you will be 100% successful. If you don't, you have 0 chances of success. And I worry about your actual life. Yeah. You're the kind of guy that could end up there. I was like, wow. And, you know, that was a wake up call. Because I was very careful. I mean, I knew about, you know, how to detox, and I was a detox director, but that mental aspect of, you know, just getting to the point. So that was a wake up call. And since that time, I went from transitioning from that compliance takes a lot of self-will. You're sitting here right now, you're like, I'm gonna learn to be compliant. You're ignorant. That takes self-will, takes ego. And we have plenty of that. I have plenty of that. But surrendering means compliance is like, I'll show you I cannot drink. I won't drink. I'll show you. Right? Here. You can taste my urine. You got no liquor, bro. They don't do it that way. But if they want to do it, they have a problem. But surrender is, I'm not going to drink, man, because I know it. I know it. I gave a talk last night. I guess you guys had to get back, but I was at the same age. I got the prime spot of the last leg of the 24-hour marathon session at 10 p.m. last night. The topic was willpower and choice, and people don't get it. Yeah, if you just tried hard enough, you wouldn't drink. You know, and you know, it's just a choice. But people don't understand that for us alcoholics, when we take that drink, we lose our ability to choose. It's hard to explain to some people how you can end up, you know, in some state, 3 states away. So it's willpower versus. So this aspect of surrender of saying, you know I can't drink this. I want to. That's surrender. If you're sitting in here, you haven't gotten there yet. I'll just be honest. I mean, it's just not possible. You know, you will though. You will. Every one of us has that opportunity. So that aspect of moving from compliance to surrender, of being able to let go, of redirecting that self-will, that determination, that willpower, and understanding the willpower didn't get me anywhere. Into the aspect of surrender, which is, you know, humility. I don't know what the steps of being humility. Yeah, I did my steps. I'm humble now. If I have to go around saying I got humility, I ain't got humility. That's not how that works. But that surrender requires humility. It's like, well, listen, I know there's things that are right now. I made a view, and I'm still going to figure this out, and that's fine. That is fine. If I get enough of your money and you survive, you come back and say I was wrong, because you will. But once again, not my story to tell you. For me, that experience. So that's what it was like. I'm gonna say what it's like now. Then I'm going to talk about what I did. Okay, and then as I'm going through that, in that time, you're going to ask me questions, and that way you can get direct feedback of the practical aspects of why you're having to spend this 1 hour on Sunday night. You're going to be working well besides the leftovers. And Sunday, I had leftovers. Good leftovers. Still. So, you want salmon? Right.
Steak.
Steak? You'll recharge me. So now I went back to a job, the same state job. I worked at the medical facility just up the road, Blount Hospital for 15 years. President of the medical staff when I left. My third time when I had to leave and come back, I was gone too long. I had to take 6 months off, almost a year, and I couldn't stay employed. So, but you know, I was so focused on getting that job back. It wasn't like I really loved that job, but I'm like, you know, that ego was like, you're gonna get the job back. Because I mean, for the professionals in here, really, it's about, you know, you are that. You know, you may mess up a lot of things in your life, you protect that license. I see a head nod back there. You protect that license in a very, you can have that license when you grab it from that cold dead thing. Problem is, sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. I know this. So, but this time I didn't. I went to a sober living house in Raleigh. Hey, Raleigh guy. You may be there too. More to be revealed. That's what they tell you when there's bad news. More to be revealed. Just saying. It's not really bad. It's good for you, but I don't want to hear it. But I spent 6 months there, and about 4 years ago, around the same time, my father, who was a psychiatrist, was working full time at age 77, found a brain tumor, and they did surgery trying to remove it. They cut her artery, had a massive stroke, and went from working full time to being totally dependent. A year in rehab. I was driving back and forth from. And this time I realized, I was driving back from Lenore to Winston-Salem, and still working, and I was making that 8-hour round trip, or 8-hour work day with a 5-hour round trip. But that's not an excuse or justification. I'm just saying that the timeline. But when I decided to go back to work, or when I was had the opportunity, it was kind of meant for to allow me to do that, I decided, listen, I'm going to do something I want to do, right? And everyone in here is like, if I ever get it, I'm just how I want to do it, right? Everyone, I thought that like 9 years ago. It is not to do what Pavillon is not, and I don't, even now with doing some of the things, I don't have a full appreciation, and that's why I always come back. Anytime that Pavillon asks me to do anything, I come back. I have a personal life. Bradford was okay, but Dr. Wilkins here now, so I can say that. It's the best here. But I hear some people go, "Well, this place didn't really work for me." That's all bullshit. No place is going to. Pavillon ain't going to get you sober. Pavillon didn't get me sober. They service, right? And so this aspect of going back to what I want to do. So what it's like now, I have a job where I'm a medical director for some nursing homes, and so that pays the bills. It's nice, but I've partnered up with a friend of mine from Hickory, and we have started. We have 8 offices of doing outpatient IFP programs, clinical services, where we've now gone into detox. We have detox and residential treatment. We're building a nice facility in Goldsboro. Our Pavillon is great. Not everybody can get there, right? And people are dying in rural America. So our new hybrid model of rural America is, we go to where people are to help people where they are. And so Goldsboro and Shelby, and we just are opening up a 120 bed county in Carter County. I liked it so much they picked us over with Atrium Health to run their old county hospital right there on the coast. Carter County's got the second highest fentanyl death rate in North Carolina. They have nowhere in some place. So we're getting to do that. It's a privilege to be able to do that. So that's what I'm doing now. I got my addictions specialist with my license in clinical addiction treatment, and year after, I just got in the process of applying for my addiction fellowship at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm an internist and a hospital doctor. I'll be doing that. That's what I'm doing. So life is good. So what did I do? What was different? What did I do? The specific things I did was when I first came through the first 3 times, I didn't get no sponsor. I didn't work the steps. You do it here, you go out here. I didn't do any of those things. I did meetings and logged them into my little mobile track, right? Rotation bullshit. I'm sorry. Sorry.
You can cuss on in here.
Yeah. My phone is on, they can hear it.
Oh, okay.
Just got my license back. Love it. Very much. that bring me very, very good things for me. So practically, I make about 10 meetings a week, and I literally, and I've sat here before, and I've said this, and I never did. I have structured my life so that my recovery, my work and my family, everything fits into my recovery, not the other way around. We do these worksheets where you're supposed to put down, things that are important, family, work, whatever. And they said, they have multiple different ways of doing it. And each step, where they like. So let's go back to it. Wherever you put, whenever recovery wasn't number one on your list, everything after that, you're at risk of losing. I'm like, that's bullshit, because you don't understand. I got bills to pay. I got my beach house mortgage I got to make. I got 2 Mercedes. I got, what? That's crazy. That's crazy thinking. That's crazy self-entitled bullshit, ego thinking. And I'm here to tell you, what I specifically did is that I placed recovery first. Practical basis, I made movies. And I still make a ton of movies. I do specific recovery work. I have a sponsor that I talk to on a regular basis. I have done the steps. I have worked through the steps with my sponsor. I continue to do the steps on a regular basis. I am compliant with my monitoring permit. I voluntarily extended the monitoring because I realized that if I don't have desired drink, I don't have to worry about that. This is just I have insurance for everything, but why not insure my own, livelihood and my recovery? That's all that is. Like $110 a month, and like once every couple months they ask me to pay the company. Big freaking deal. But so I have a home group where we have Monday through Friday, noon and 5:30 meetings. We have a Friday night speaker meeting at 8. We have a Saturday morning at 10:30. We have a Saturday at 8. We have a Sunday spiritual at 11 and a Sunday beginners at 5:30. And I make 10 of those meetings every single week. When I travel, I make a meeting. I was in Tucson for a conference. I was IDA, so International Doctors of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's Alcoholics Anonymous, so the whole way. But I went to India. I was able to take my parents to India on the trip that I thought my dad was going to make when I was going to die. And they've just started, the World Services Organization has just started AA in India. It was about 2 or 3 years old. I was able to be a district speaker. Actually, I was a state speaker for my home state where I was born. And I was able to speak in my native tongue. I was able to make a donation for the literature and bought big books both in English and in Tamil and Hindi for every chapter in that state. I was able to do that. So, what have I done practically? Those are the things I've listened to every single thing that I've been told to do or been suggested to me. I went to that sober house. I stayed the entire time. Found a sponsor that I knew would let me get away with my bullshit. I've had 3 sponsors. My most recent one, my current sponsor's got 20 some odd years. The one prior to that had 30 some plus years. My first sponsor had 30 years. I don't have to reinvent the wheel. That's 100 years, like almost 90. That's longer than that age limit. All right. So that aspect of, me trying. So my last sponsorship, retired Marine, airline pilot, business owner, deputy sheriff, stood by that tall. Dentist, smoked like a fiend, married and divorced 5 times, twice to the same woman. What do you tell me? Don't come ask me about no damn women. Okay? He said, I will just share with you that, just be careful. And if I was going to do something that he didn't approve of, he would never say that was bad. He just said, well, that sounds interesting. So I learned that if I was ever planning on doing something interesting, I shouldn't do it. I didn't. So, but he would tell me, you can't be too dumb for this program, but you can be too damn smart. And I'm telling you, I've met a lot of smart people in these rooms. I've met a lot of smart people, highly motivated, intelligent, giving, affectionate, compassionate people that practice all types of care, except one important type of care. Does anyone know what type of care?
Self-care.
Someone's learning stuff. Self-care. I literally put that in my. I spoke to the medical this time, and you remember that movie, Shawshank? He gets denied every time, right? I went in there this time, I'm like, and I had to do it on Zoom, and my attorney and the assistant went. And I said, listen, I really don't care if I get all this back. And I meant it. I said, because my recovery and my life isn't dependent on what I do as a physician. It's who I am as a person. And I can see my lawyer's eyes get about that big, and then they're like, we love that you said that. We love that you said that. Would you be willing to come and speak to some of our new initiatives when they get their licenses and speak about your recovery? And so, but I had to mean it. I didn't say what I was supposed to say, but I said what I was honest. It's honest. And so that aspect, so that's what I do. That's what I do currently. I practice honesty, hope, and faith. I try to be courageous, to deal with life with integrity, and remain willing. I'm open to being humbled. I love without limits. I try to remain disciplined. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. If I have a 10 o'clock meeting in Lake Junaluska and a 5:30 at Lake Pavillon and a Friday night speaker meeting and a teething 12-month-old toddler and a 6-year-old and a wife at a hotel in Asheville, I still do it. So, awareness, literally, being aware, right? That's 10 step, being aware of my strategy. And service without expectation. Let me tell you the story about, and I'll go to questions. I'll ask you to questions. We've got an hour, right?
Yeah, you got time.
So I don't help people. There's a little, Dr. Kagan gave this wonderful little one page. And a lot of these things, you're handing the stuff, and it's good, all is good. But some of these things you're going to pull out from time to time. You will. You may not think that, but you're going to be years down the road. And I pulled this out, and she had a little thing on service and about what helping is and what the difference between helping and serving is. So if I'm helping someone, if I have to help someone, I have to assume that they are weaker than me, right? I'm strong, you're weak, I'll help you. If I have to fix a situation, I have to assume that I have to assume that it's broken to fix it. But service, well, here's the thing. People don't like being viewed as weak, and situations don't give a shit about what I think that's broken. They are just, well, they are. They're just, that's just life, So I'm not going to get anywhere by trying to help people or by fixing things. But I can be of service through my higher power without expectations. The Buddha says, be where you are, your life will pass you by. And so now today, I had all these lectures about codependency and enabling and boundaries. And this for me, to keep it simple, I set boundaries. I set boundaries now. So if someone crosses that boundary, they suffer the consequences, right? I try not to set expectations. When I set an expectation and it's not met, which it never is, I build resentment. If I set a boundary, someone crosses that boundary, they suffer the consequences. I have far fewer resentments and allow other people to deal with their consequences. That's the difference. That boundary wall When that person crosses the boundary and encroaches into you, that's codependency. When you push that line back further, that's enabling. That's it. Enabling and codependency are on the fence of the boundary. If you're moving that line, you're pushing, you're codependent. If they're pushing at you, you're enabling. You have to set that back. So I spend my life now, I don't apologize for crap because I have made my amends and I live my life and I don't owe anybody anything except I owe myself. And so I'm able to, the best sleep medicine is a clear conscience. I've got a lot. My wife, who's in that hotel room, has buried 2 of her adult daughters in the last 5 years, ages 20 and 24, as a consequence of the disease. And they share a grave in Lenore that she has to drive by, that I drive by every time I go home. So, and I've sat in a morgue at 2 in the morning and watched a grieving mother caress the body of her dead child and talk to her as if she's still living. So I don't have to hear from anybody about your bullshit stories about what's going on in your damn life. I don't suffer that anymore. I don't have to. I've set boundaries. Okay. And so, those 2 kids that I'm taking care of, those are those kids because they don't have their mom taking them. So, you have to mean what you say and say what you mean. You don't have to be mean when you say it. These are simple truisms in life. They're simple truisms. I set boundaries. I manage expectations. Okay. I go to meetings. I have a sponsor. I do as I'm told by my sponsor. If I have issues, I call someone besides myself. Bad shit didn't happen to me every time I drank. But every time something bad happened, Joyce, I've been drinking. I got a lot of letters in my name, and a lot of letters after my name. I don't need all that education to figure that out. Okay. So I trust something other than myself. I keep my own side of the truth clean, and I serve with my expectations.